Man, seeing these crystals makes me really envious of them. I need more on my main account, man. Oh, I'm starved. Oh, brother. YouTube frogs, welcome back to another guide. This time of the Herrscher composed of 300,000 minds represented by one in the past, completely reborn and ascended over all in the present. Bronya Zaychik, the Herrscher of Truth. Being the newest S-ranker added into the game, she brings a lot to the game in her own special style. In this video, we'll be covering Herrscher of Truth's design and playstyle, and how to get the most value out of her kit, possible builds for her with both weapons and Stigmata, her rank ups, possible team comps, and a gameplay showcase. The footage used in this video is from the version 6.3 beta, and any additional findings can be found in the pinned comment down below, so be sure to check that out and leave a comment yourself. With all that out of the way, let's dive right into Bronya, the Herrscher of Truth. Having learned more than ever before about the past of the Herrscher of Reason, Bronya finally is able to overcome the limitations previously seemed to be set in stone and to ascend to the Herrscher of Truth. To fully understand HTR moving forward, we first need to understand that she has two different modes she can switch between at no cost, and each is considered a Herrscher form as well. Her base form, Extremum form, is where Bronya is able to unlock special buffs for herself to enable her to enhance her own damage and allow her to unlock special weapons in the midst of combat. Her secondary form, Continuation form, transforms Bronya into essentially a Gundam to deal large range damage and give her access to her ultimate ability as well. Bronya's basic attack string, Silverwolf's Echoes, has two different sequences depending on which form she's fighting in. In Extremum form, Bronya fights with her Spear and Project Bunny in unison, dealing melee ice damage herself. In Continuation form, by tapping or holding attack, Bronya is able to fire a volley of lasers that deals AoE ice damage. In both forms, Bronya has access to her combo attack, Chariot of Nizhny Tagil, apologies if I say that wrong, under specific circumstances. In the Extremum form, after basic sequence 4, QTE or evasion skill, hold attack to launch an attack with Bronya and Project Bunny in unison and unlock one of Bronya's mecha weapons on hit. During this attack, Bronya can switch out into another character while also remaining on field for the duration of the attack, similar to Carol's ult or Sushang's combo attack. In Continuation form, consume 100 meter to fire a rifle that deals a large amount of ice damage, along with 2 lasers, causes 2 seconds of global time fracture, and locks onto up to 10 enemies while firing 2 missiles and 1 laser at each enemy. With 4 enemies or less on the field, each enemy is locked onto an additional time. Additionally, casting combo attack in Continuation form increases ice damage by 30% for 18 seconds and summons 4 hover guns that deal 18% of her attack stat. Her ultimate, Narrative of Infinite Truth, allows Bronya to freely transform into her Continuation form to deal damage, restore 20 SP, and induce 2 seconds of global time fracture. While in Continuation form, for 125 SP, Bronya can cast her ultimate to deal damage to all enemies on the field, pause all skill and stage timers, and grant Elemental Breach for all fire and lightning damage dealers on the team. Moving on to her ultimate evasion, Snowy Bunny's exploits, in Extreme form, Bronya can immediately follow up by tapping attack to cast Vector Calculus. This uses her evasion skill to deal damage, unlock a mecha weapon, cause 3 seconds of global time fracture, and increase her ignore interrupt for 5 seconds. While her evasion skill is on cooldown, Bronya will instead connect to her basic sequence 4, which can be followed up with combo attack. In Continuation form, Bronya can automatically trigger evasion skill regardless if she evades or not. With her missiles mecha weapon unlocked, her evasion will fire 8 missiles normally. The evasion skill, however, will restore 20 meter and fire 28 missiles instead. Her leader skill increases all team members' elemental damage by 30% and grants 6% more damage to Herrscher of Truth in Continuation form for every non-Bronya battlesuit on the team. Additionally, her QT is triggered when enemies are frozen, time slowed, or a teammate casts weapon active. This additionally unlocks a mecha weapon for Bronya as well. Finally, let's talk about her passive, Dimensional Resonance Drive. This passive contains the bulk of information surrounding HTR and is what primarily enables her to do what she does. Let's start with Project Bunny. Initially in combat, Project Bunny passively deals damage with Machine Gun. As previously stated, HTR is able to unlock special mecha weapons and restore SP. These weapons upgrade Project Bunny. Bronya can unlock missiles, lasers, and hover guns in this order via the methods discussed previously, which are her basic sequence attacks, QTE, and evasion skill. And each mecha weapon as well deals increasingly more damage than the previous. In Continuation form, however, Bronya has higher ignore interrupt, faster movement speed, and takes massively reduced damage. Additionally, based on how many weapons she's unlocked, Bronya deals increasingly more total damage and restores increasingly more SP to the team upon exiting this form. While in this form, Bronya gains a mecha propulsion meter that maxes out at 100. This meter can be restored with basic attacks at a rate of 5 meter and 1.6 SP per hit, as denoted in her basic attack skill tree. This passive also features a special weapon skill exclusive to HTR in both forms. In Extreme form, tapping weapon active deals a large amount of damage to lockdown enemies. In Continuation form, however, holding weapon fires continuous lasers and an additional 2 lasers if the laser mecha weapon is unlocked, and even more lasers if hover gun is unlocked as well. Upon finishing the volley of lasers, a large explosion will occur. When HTR switches out or ends Continuation form, the mecha will ram enemies and generate a black hole that sucks enemies in and deals damage. Project Bunny will then reappear afterwards, and all of HTR's mecha weapons will be reset. For Herrscher of Truth, all skills of hers are relevant as she is both a DPS and a support, and with skills being upgradable asynchronously, just level each skill as their level ups unlock. With all this information and mechanics attached to HTR, it's understandable if you guys find her a bit confusing to play effectively initially. So let me simplify it for you just really quick. In a solo ice team, you'll typically activate your support buffs before switching to HTR. Afterwards, to unlock mecha weapons the fastest, you'll want a QTE Bronya in followed up by a weapon active and a combo attack to unlock all 3 weapons instantly. Switch to Continuation form and combo attack into ult. Afterwards, use weapon active and go to town until your support buffs run out. Rinse and repeat. With HTR as a support, typically when swapping to Bronya, you'll insta-activate Continuation form, combo attack, follow up with ult, and then switch out for the damage buff and breach transfer. Patch 6.3 adds in a brand new cannon and Stigmata set primarily aimed towards Herrscher of Truth. Let's begin with her cannon and then talk about her Stigmata set. Her cannon, Key of Ascension, is the premier option for Bronya, Herrscher of Truth, and is the most highly recommended piece of her gear to pick up. To condense this giant wall of text, Bronya wants to be no further than 10 meters from the enemy. Every ice damage dealer in the team grants Bronya more total damage, every fire damage dealer in the team makes enemies take more damage, and every lightning damage dealer in the team lets weapon active restore SP. Weapon active fires a piercing laser to deal ice damage. On HTR specifically, the weapon active triggers evasion skill and unlocks a mecha weapon in extreme form and restores 50 meter, and basics restore more meter in Continuation form. The prior weapon passive increases the entire team's elemental damage as well. When Bronya casts her ultimate, this prior effect increases as well. When Bronya casts her weapon active as well, her ice damage also increases by a certain amount. For her Stigmata set, in the name of truth, it is of course the premier set for HTR. The T-piece increases ice damage in Herrscher form, while also increasing all team members' total damage when the entire team is in Inceptive Authority. The M-piece lets Bronya receive less damage and causes all enemies to take more total damage from her ranged attacks. The B-piece increases total damage and activates Inceptive Authority after casting Weapon Active, which increases elemental damage. The B-piece increases total damage and activates Inceptive Authority after casting Weapon Active, which increases elemental damage. Inceptive Authority can be passed on to the incoming Valkyrie. The 2-piece bonus lets a team member in Inceptive Authority deal more total damage, lets Bronya refresh the duration of Inceptive Authority for the team, and improves its effect as well. The 3-piece bonus causes combo attacks, ult, and burst mode attacks to deal more ice damage while also causing enemies to receive more elemental damage if a team member is in Inceptive Authority. With no doubt in my mind, the most valuable pieces between the 3 of these are the T-piece and the B-piece, with the B-piece being the utmost importance. For captains that may not be able to get these items, here are some budget and free-to-play alternatives for you all. On the weapon side, if you don't have her signature weapon, you can use Star of Eden Entropy, Key of Reason, and Falcon Flare, and of course their Pri versions as well. Anything past that is just a stat stick. As for Stigmata sets, if you don't have her full gear, you can farm for Willow's and Ana set, which will of course eventually turn into Willow's set. You can also use Herrscher Elysia's or Silverwing sets if you have them. Welt, however, is a bit copium and you're much better off crafting Ana and up. However, this is for DPS HTR. For support, if you don't have her signature set, more often than not, you'll be running Turg TB, PPM, or another elemental damage specific alternative. Let's talk affixes now, aka the quote-unquote substats. Newer players, you guys can skip ahead to the next part of the video as affixes are something that you should not be focusing on until the very end of the game. Now, as for affixes, they differ a little bit depending on how you'll be using Bronya. As a DPS, you'll want solely attack affixes as she has pretty good SP regen on her own. Of course, you'll be wanting to go primarily for weapon and imaginary type affixes, as she is an imaginary type cannon wielder, and those specific affixes give the highest chance for the largest attack increase. As a support, however, you might want a single line of SP per second regen, since you won't be gaining a lot of the SP regen benefits often, as she'll only be on the field for a short amount of time. As with each new Valkyrie that comes out that's not an SP Valkyrie, They become subject to the new rankum system that's more akin to the constellation system from Genshin. However, these rankums don't necessarily always follow a similar structure, but what we can expect is S1 being a skill damage increase, S2 being either a damage buff or an SP regen buff, S3 buffing leader skill, double S buffing damage or SP regen depending on S2, double S1 buffing damage, double S2 being a quality of life buff, double S3 being another leader skill buff, and triple S being a very large damage buff. Now, HDR falls in line with the structure pretty well. Her S1 is a skill level cap increase, her S2 unlocks a skill that increases damage and restores SP, and it raises the skill cap of another skill. Her S3 is her leader skill buff, double S gives more personal and team-wide elemental breach, double S1 and double S2 are both skill cap increases, double S3 is another leader skill buff, and triple S gives more SP and time fracture. If you're looking to get ranks for her because of the supply system that they're repurposing from Silverwing and also Vilvi, I would say S2 and possibly even double S are good stopping points if you're not going for triple S. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to possible team comps for her. Doubling as both the newest Premier Ice DPS and newest Universal Elemental support, HDR can fit into multiple team comps. When used in an Ice team comp, you'll be pairing her up as the DPS with Pardo and Sushang backing her up. In other Elemental team comps, however, she replaces AE as the Elemental Breacher. This will become more apparent in version 6.4 with the release of Herrscher of Origin and Herrscher Finality for the OG Trio Herrscher team, where Bronya will support Kiana and Mei. Currently, however, she'll slot in for AE and HFS team comps, like this, and Fischl and HT team comps being paired with Aichan and Eden respectively, like this. Now let's show some of the gameplay. I'll be using some of the team comps that I talked about to show off HDR. Note that I'll be using S0 Bronya for this to temper expectations. Now let's cue up that music, editor me.
現実をよく見てください。ミステル。
Just like the street lights lit this town, fire in a blaze, gotta burn it.
Hey yo!
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know. See danger in us. They know we'll burn down the night. Come in just like the sun.
And so that's about it. So what are my thoughts on HDR? I personally think she's an absolute monster being added. She's a fantastic ice DPS that fills the newfound imaginary role that Herrscher of Origin and Herrscher Finale will fill some more in version 6.4. Not to mention she doubles as a great general elemental support, as well as being the second Valkyrie in the game with a source of elemental breach. The most recent story chapter revitalized my love for Bronya, and I'm happy to see her in a more pronounced role than she was in the beginning of the game story-wise and gameplay-wise as well. I look forward to the future of the game wholeheartedly, and I can't wait to see what it has in store for us. Now, before I go, if you guys enjoyed this guide, be sure to drop a like on the vid, comment down below your thoughts, and also follow me on social media, and especially my Twitch where I stream fairly often. More videos are coming to the channel soon, so don't worry, I'm not going to be a one-trick Andy guide maker. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys made it to the end of the video, let me know what your thoughts are on the Sailor Moon S transformation from the end of chapter 33. With that being out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video.
既然没有要紧事，再来给重装小兔加装些辅助单元吧。